Hey guys, super fast before we jump into the video. I know a lot of you guys are stuck at home alone for the next few weeks, and you might be looking to play some D&D online with your friends since you guys can't meet face to face. And just for the record, this video is not sponsored in any way, but I did reach out to Fantasy Grounds to see if they were going to do anything with all of the quarantines. And they told me that they were in fact early releasing the open beta for Fantasy Grounds Unity and throwing in a bunch of discounts, not just for new customers, but also for existing customers who want to upgrade from Fantasy Grounds Classic while all of this is kind of going on. Again, let me reiterate, I am not in any way getting paid to plug Fantasy Grounds, but I know that a lot of you guys have been searching for ways to continue your weekly games online during this outbreak, and so I thought this was simply a thing that's good to share with all of you. I've thrown a link down in the video's description that will take you right to their open beta with all of the discounts to kind of make it just easier to find. Okay, I love your faces, stay safe, wash your hands, and here's the video. All right, you maggots, the time has come to whip you into shape. Today, I'm gonna turn you into lean, mean fighting machines. Today, we're gonna talk about how to stop being such a noob in combat and get you prepared to take on whatever your Dungeon Master has to throw at you. So, here are 10 tips to be better at combat in Dungeons & Dragons 5e.
Know this! Killing is my business, ladies! And business is good!
So we're going to start off with a few basic tips and then move into the more advanced stuff as we continue along in the video. The first tip I have for players is to use more cover. This seems simple enough, but I'm always amazed at how little players actually do this. As a reminder, you can, in fact, break up your movement in combat, so do it. Also, cover does not just apply to ranged attacks. Melee attacks are, rules as written, affected by cover, period. However, because the attacker can choose any corner to calculate this from, it doesn't affect attacks from 5 feet or 1 square away. It does affect melee weapons with reach though, like a glaive. So if you're attacking with a reach weapon and an ally would grant your opponent cover, then that's not subjective, that's just rules as written. There has never been an edition of Dungeons & Dragons that's easier to move around in than 5th edition. So why wouldn't you consider repositioning yourself to gain cover after an attack? Split that movement up and use the cover rules to your advantage. Tip number 2 is one that the entire party should take note of, and that's focusing down targets. All right, listen up, Dungeon Masters and players. I'm going to tell you the secret to 5th edition's combat system. The most important factor in deciding a combat between two relatively balanced forces is action economy. The one that takes more attacks in a round has the advantage. Pretty simple. So, if you want to improve your combat play in your next Dungeons & Dragons campaign, pay attention to who the rest of the party is attacking. Instead of trying to be a hero and taking on someone else, gang up on the same target. Unless you can completely kill a 30 HP monster in one turn, moving up and spreading out your attacks so that the party is fighting 3 different monsters at the same time isn't going to stop them from attacking. Instead, take the hit that you can't stop anyways and spend your turn having as many party members as possible burn down one of the 3 foes. Now, as a group, you can deal that 30 damage in a combat in one round to that one foe, and that might even be enough to prevent them from even getting off a single attack if you get lucky with initiative. Tip number 3 is simply learning all of the available actions. 5e is a very simple game in combat, but I've seen plenty of games break down to just a barbarian standing in front of a big bad evil guy and raging with an axe every turn. And you know what, in a lot of cases, that's fine. However, I've seen plenty of clerics, bards, rangers, and yes, even those same barbarians get into a bit of a tight spot and start to despair when they get swarmed over by all of the enemies. But if those players simply use the disengage action to casually walk out of danger and back to a choke point, or if the 19 AC fighter with the shield would have simply used their turn to dodge against all of the kobolds surrounding them, instantly negating the kobold's advantage every attack from pack tactics, the party would have quickly started focusing down the enemies. Instead, sometimes players get tunnel vision, scouring their sheet for an ability that will turn the battle. My advice is to get your head up, look at the situation, and see if any of the generic actions in combat would actually be the most optimal move. Tip number 4 is always think about positioning. Seriously, every turn, see if you're in the best position. Remember, allies can move through each other's spaces, but enemies cannot. Are you holding a spot that is preventing the Dungeon Master from swarming the healer in the back? If so, don't move. Does your table use flanking rules? If so, is there another square that you can reach without provoking an opportunity attack that will allow an ally to get flanking once they get a chance to move up on their turn as well? Then go ahead and get in position. This is something that takes some time to master, but instead of looking at your phone in between your turns, again, get that head up and look at the field of play. Think about not just your next move before it's your turn, but also where your allies might move and jump on opportunities to create flanks and choke points. With tip number 5, we're going to start getting into the slightly more advanced stuff. This is a nice little tactic for half-casters or primary healers who are low on the end of raw damage output and have a rogue or paladin in the party. And that's to consider foregoing your attack for the help action instead. Let's say the party is up against a boss or other significant foe. This is great for a large CR creature where you don't have 10 other minions still around. Instead of trying to smash your 1d8 mace with your +1 strength mod or burning a high level spell slot where the creature might just use legendary resistance to automatically beat your spell save DC, instead use your turn to give advantage to your paladin or rogue so that they can more easily fish for critical. Because in 5e, all dice is doubled on a natural 20. So now your paladin with 2 attacks in a round has 3 chances to roll a 20 instead of just 2. The moment that she sees that 20 pop up, now they can smite and thus double all of her dice by using a spell slot. In an instance where the boss's legendary resistance is irrelevant. So you've turned a spell slot that might have been wasted or a mediocre hit into an additional 48 plus 1d10 for the weapon's damage of crit that otherwise might have been a standard hit or maybe even a miss. Same principle is applicable for your rogue's sneak attack dice as well. This is basically changing the way you think about action economy. Instead of thinking about your single action and possible bonus, now you're thinking about the group's 5 actions and 5 possible bonus actions. Tip number 6 is all about that concentration, as in you should almost always stop what you're doing and break the concentration of spellcasters if you can. Naturally, spells are usually much more effective than incoming claw and bite attacks from your opponents, but concentration spells take that up to a whole nother level with efficiency the more rounds of combat that those spells get to stick around. So if you see a Drow Priestess with Insect Plague up or an active Conjure Animals up, hit her right in her face and try to get that concentration broken. Tip number 7 is really a wacky one, but this one is pure gold, seriously. And that's to lay down more. Yep, you heard that right, lay down more, by using a strategy that I'm dubbing the pop and shot. This is basically about using the rules to your advantage, or more accurately, your opponent's disadvantage. Dum-dum-dum. Ranged attacks. That's both ranged attacks and ranged spell attacks, and technically even thrown weapons, have disadvantage against a prone target. So if you catch yourself in the middle of a field exchanging crossbow fire with a group of Zentarum veterans, once you've taken your shot, simply lay down. Now when they return fire, they have disadvantage. When it's your turn again, simply stand up with half of your movement speed and fire again. Then as a free action, drop back down into the tall grass. Now, keep in mind, the exact way the rule is written is anything more than 5 feet will get disadvantage against you, but anything within 5 feet will have advantage. So be careful you're not doing this too close to melee opponents, but this is an amazing strategy that will piss off your Dungeon Master. And as a DM myself, I mean, it's rules is written, so go for it. Sorry, DM, suck it. All right, rule number 8 is one that I'm gonna make fun of my good friend Jacob with XP to level 3 for, and that's a reminder to not break your allies' mez spells or control spells. Sorry, Jacob, but I'm gonna throw you under the bus. I'm definitely giving you shit about this one because you did it all the time when we played together. In short, if your caster throws out a charm or spell that can be broken if you attack the pacified target, like Hypnotic Pattern, for example, do not hit that target until all of the other threats have been dealt with first. It is inefficient to reintroduce them into combat, thus increasing your opponent's overall action economy until all of the other enemies have been defeated. And just as a small role-playing note, this may also give the group a better chance at capturing one of the enemies alive and holding them for questioning rather than throwing the Shatter, Burning Hands, Fireball, or Axe at their face before the group is actually ready for them. Tip number 9, I'm having too much fun. Tip number 9 is to prepare the battlefield when you have an opportunity. Maybe the group did finally get the drop on a few bugbears lumbering around the corner. Instead of rushing in and fighting them wherever you found them, why not lure them around the corner where you've set up a few bear traps and have a chance to slam the door behind one of them, locking the other out and turning the deadly combat encounter into 2 smaller, far more manageable average combats. Instead of rushing into a fight where your enemy has a lot of room to maneuver around, why not have the halfling run and pull all of the enemies with a taunt into a single narrow hallway, which just so happens to line all of them up nicely for your wizard who has readied a lightning bolt spell. Now, instead of the wizard having to move into the room into a more vulnerable position to try to line up 2 of the enemies inside, he or she can safely stand far away from them and get all of those enemies with 1 spell slot. And finally, number 10 is a tip that serves as a minor counterpoint to all of the other tips. And that's to not overcomplicate things if you don't need to. Sometimes just dealing damage on your turn is the best thing you can do in combat. I'm always amazed whenever I throw out a very basic combat encounter and I see players throw down their large metal weapons designed purely for war making and try to poke the enemies in the eye with their hands or throw dust or dig into their bags for oil. Yes, I love to reward players for thinking critically and doing something really clever in combat. But, and hear me out on this, sometimes, maybe sometimes, you don't have to try and outthink every single combat encounter. Sometimes it's okay to just hit the flying demon with your axe. And just for the record, if you are one of those players, you know what? That's fine. Hell, I'm one of those players, okay? I like to really outthink combat. But sometimes I really need to just shut my mouth, move up, attack, and roll damage, because really that's the best thing to do for the entire group. Okay guys, so now I want to ask you, what did I miss? Now I know, we all know about Sentinel and Polearm and all that and the feat tree and blah, blah, blah. But besides that, what else did I miss? What other strategies or tactics do you have that did not get included that you think more people should be aware of? Let us know in the comments down below. I, of course, want to give a massive thank you to all of my amazing patrons over at Welcome Adventures. Guys, thank you. It's because of you that I can continue to do this. So if you like what I do here, you want to support more content like this, welcomeadventures.com is a great and easy way to do that. So thank you to all of my amazing patrons. If this is your first time here and you love role-playing games as much as I do, I would love to have you subscribe. Every week, mostly, I put out new videos on GM tips, player tips, tutorials, and more. So if that sounds like something you might be interested in, just hit that subscribe button down below and come join us. Thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Cody, and may your games be filled with awesome memories and even better friends. I'll catch you guys next time. In fact, break up your movement in combat. Blah, blah, blah. Me.
Yeah.